Hello, BookTube. I just left it a few seconds there because it's so beautiful out here, and I had to get out of all my interior spaces where I've been filming since, well, for most of 2024-25. I really haven't got out and done landscape therapy. Remember landscape therapy? Yeah, I used to do a lot of that. I used to get outside a lot more, and I don't know what happened, but I'm coming back out. I'm coming back out to see the landscape. This is the River Nene, or Nen, depending upon where you live in the county of Northamptonshire. But at any rate, it looks beautiful today. The trees, they've budded in the sense they've got new leaves, but these ones haven't decided to flower yet. They're not quite ready, but when they do, oh wow, that'll be beautiful as well. Maybe I'll have to try and get back down. But can you see, it's so gorgeous today. I'm wearing a t-shirt. I haven't gone outside in less than 3 layers in a long time. So we went to the cricket yesterday. That was beautiful. But today what I want to do is I want to film a tag. And this is a tag that originated with Gareth at Books, Songs and Other Magic. And the tag, I was tagged by David at Polyglot Reading, and it's called the Places You Will Go tag. I should get it right. Oh, the places you will go. So I really felt, you know what, you got to get a different location to do this tag. And the first tag question is, there's 2 parts to these questions. There's a book part and a life part, if that makes any sense. If you watched other videos, you'll know immediately. So the book prompt. No, I've not started that correctly. So the overall question, the overall quote, I can't remember. Gareth quoted from a book, didn't he? So the quote is, which direction you choose. And the book prompt is, what's the first place you go to in a bookshop? And I had to think about that. I'm not sure that I am that habitual. And yet, when I considered it, I thought, yeah, I know what I do. I love all the table displays. So I usually start by doing a tour of all those table displays that bookshops do these days to bring some books right into your face, make it easy for you to just walk around and see them cover up. And I do a tour of those. Oddly, it's rare for me to buy books from any of those displays, but I need to go around them. There's something about them. I guess I see it as a warm-up exercise, because then the real work starts when I go to the general fiction section, A to Z, and I work my way through meticulously, and I'm looking for forgotten or lesser-known names. You know from my book hauls that I find obscure things that I don't think anyone's ever talked about this, or, oh my goodness, I remember this. Has anybody read this recently, I wonder? And after that, once I've combed fiction, I will then check out nonfiction, because I love nonfiction. It has to be a part of my reading diet. So history, biography, natural science, sociology, psychology, religion. I avoid business, economics. I do have the occasional book about economics, but I'm always worried I won't follow it. That's my bugbear, is I'm always afraid of numbers, that I won't understand abstract principles involving numbers. Nevertheless, I still try. And I do think I learned something. I probably just don't have the kind of grasp that would cause somebody to encourage me to take a career in that discipline. And the life prompt for which direction you choose is a question I'm dreading. It says, what is the biggest life decision you've made that has impacted your life? And I thought, oh my goodness, I don't seem to make decisions that do anything else but really impact, but I don't know. The impact, you see, it hasn't always been wonderful. Sometimes I think, I could do so much. I could be kinder to myself with my decisions. So I'm not going to talk about some that I've mentioned before, which have had a big impact. I'm going to talk about moving to the United Kingdom from Canada, which I did in 1986. And I don't regret that decision. I do think that had a fantastic impact. And the only way I can explain it, because Canadians are going to go, do you not like Canada? I thought, oh no, it's not quite like that. It's not a like-dislike. sort of thing. But I notice it when I do make visits home to Canada to see relatives. I notice what I miss while I'm there. I miss the news. I miss the BBC. And it is a colonial hangover, leftover, that the BBC still has the World Service and still treats world news with some seriousness. I do think that it's probably decreasing over time. But the existence of the World Service and the programs that it makes, which keep you aware that there are other countries and other people and the complexities of the situations that they're dealing with. I appreciate that, and I miss it when I leave Britain. Sport, I miss cricket and snooker. I miss those sports in England which are popular, and they're just as much about psychological strength as they are about physical prowess. And I think cricket and snooker are two of those. They just, where your mind is, where your head is, matters so much. More sometimes than your physical ability can be completely undermined by your mental state, and it shows, I think, a great deal in cricket. And then scale. Canada's huge, and I miss things being closer. London is only an hour away from this picaresque scene that you see me in now. It only took me less than a minute to walk here from my house. Right? I'm less than a minute from this. And yet I'm also only an hour from London. I could not live in London. I could not bear that kind of urban anything. I'm not an urban creature. But I like having London close. And what else do I miss? Culture. There's something about the UK, perhaps because it's a smaller country and it's an island, and therefore a culture has developed within it that has a certain uniformity. And I do miss, when I'm in Canada, I miss the cultural milestones, even though I don't care. I don't go to Wimbledon or Ascot, or what are the other things? The boat race. There's Christmas and all its attendant festivities, Guy Fawkes Night. All these things, they are leftovers and remnants of a history that is amusing in some places. Nevertheless, the fact that the year is so well marked with all these, and everyone in the UK has either recognizes or is learning to recognize the significance of those cultural markers, whatever they think of them. It's just having those markers there, and they're being shared across the country. And there's also different ones. There are regional ones for Scotland and Wales, but even those, again, they're part of that mix. And I miss that. I miss the fact that when I'm in Canada, it feels like Canada Day and Thanksgiving, and otherwise the year seems, the UK has a lot of cultural markers throughout the year. I suppose it's the English version of Saint Days. Once England broke away from the Catholic Church, what was it going to do? It still needed to have lots of these occasions that people would mark, even if they only marked them by noticing, oh yes, today is whatever day it is. Pancake Day, for example, Shrove Tuesday. Not everybody observes it, but we all note that it goes by. We all say something about it in conversation, whether we care or whether we don't. And it's just the cultural abundance of those little landmarks throughout the year. Anyway, that's spending so much time on question one, and I really should get on to another question. For better or worse, I'm going to try and walk while I film question two. You can just listen to the birds for a second, because I need to watch where I'm going. It's still a little bit muddy, but the ground is still tacky. It's definitely spring and not summer, but oh my goodness, the sunshine. So question two, or the prompt two, the quote is too smart to go down any not so good street. And this is definitely a good street, I believe. And the book prompt is, and I have my notebook here, and you can see the pages are flapping and I'm trying to hold it down. What did you used to read that you don't anymore. Okay. Let's go down and look at the bridge here while I think about that. Because I don't think that's how my reading has been. I don't think it was a case that, once I read a lot of books that were about animals, talking animals. I've done a little coffee break video about, I used to read children's books that had talking animals and they were set in the countryside. And I did grow out of those. But as an adult, even as an adolescent, I just started reading adult books. And I've always read a variety of books. I've always been just so curious. I love encyclopedias because you can open them up and every other article is completely different than the one before it. And that's the joy, because it goes in alphabetical order, not necessarily in discipline order. I mean, I do think to myself sometimes, maybe you should specialize, maybe you should go into depth a little bit. Oh, this is really fun with a notebook outside, I just think. Oh. But the only thing that keeps me from doing that is a complete inability to make up my mind on what area of specialization shall I choose, because it feels awful to lose any area at all. Let's catch this swan in flight. There he goes. Off. Probably has a nest somewhere down there. Yeah, so I don't know about specialization. It doesn't thrill me. It worries me. It makes me think that I will miss something, a fascinating subject that I need to know just a little bit about. I don't want to be an expert necessarily, but I want to be acquainted with a lot of subjects. So that's why I doubt I'm probably ever going to give up on anything. And then the life prompt is, what have you learned either as a hobby or in education that you value the most? Now I'm going to go way off and talk about something I don't think I've ever mentioned in my content before, and that's nutrition. Way back in the 80s, I took 2 courses in nutrition and applied nutrition. That's for humans. Other animals have different nutritional requirements, but it included, of course, why would it necessarily include? It included a section on meal planning, shopping planning and meal planning, and I've always been interested in cooking. All the women on my mother's side of the family, well, on my father's as well, were farmers at one point. So of course the women can cook anything from anything. And there was just like a certain pride in being able to cook anything from anything, because sometimes you didn't have every ingredient that you wanted. You only had this in the house, but you had to make a meal. How were you going to do it? So cooking and nutrition, I'm always glad that there were those 2 influences on me, particularly now as I get older. I realize nutrition, it really matters. It makes a big difference to how healthy you feel. So I guess I'd say that's the area. It's not so much a hobby. I guess it's an interest and a skill, and I'm glad that I acquired it. I've come back to the spot where I've started because there's a swan drifting down the river, and also it's a little less breezy here. I can kind of hold my notebook open while you watch the swan, okay? So third prompt is, the quote is, "You'll be seeing great sights." And then the book prompt says, "Pick a book with an attractive cover." Yeah. This business of beautiful and attractive books, I think it's beauty, as always, being in the eye of the beholder. And I have a very strange... No, I don't. I know other people are like this, so why don't I just say it? My idea of a beautiful book is a beaten up, old, seen better days book with age spots on the pages, or I even like it when a page is nearly falling out and you have to read it so carefully. I don't read 1960s and 1970s mass market paperbacks very often, now and again, but I love them. I love their cheapness. I love green and orange penguin pocketbooks. And so the example that I'm going to put up on screen, and I got to be so careful because I don't really want to disturb this beautiful progress of the swan, but I'll put it up at some point, maybe at the end of the video if I feel that's appropriate. But I just don't do beautiful books. And I can see human life coming down the river, and what I don't want to do is disturb their privacy by filming them. So maybe we will just take a quick pause. Right. There's been a slight disturbance of the water as a boat just went by. It was a family out rowing on a Sunday morning, that's a nice idea, actually, if I was into boats and had the space for the equipment. Now, the life prompt for You'll Be Seeing Great Sights is, what is the most beautiful place you have visited? Which, again, it's one of those questions where you think, oh, I'm the wrong person. I haven't traveled much. I'm not really a good traveler. I'm that kid who always got car sick. Do you remember the one? Yeah, that was me. I get motion sick on boats, on trains. Aeroplanes, it's a stranger thing. It's not really motion sickness so much, but the dry air makes me feel really tired. And oh my goodness, when a plane lands, the pain I have in my sinuses and my inner ears is sometimes all I can do is just put my head down in the crash recovery position and wait until I feel the wheels of the plane hit the tarmac of the runway, and then I know that it's over and I'm going to slowly get relief. So traveling's something that I have to kind of prepare myself for. We have a break coming up where we're going to be staying in Morpeth, which is a small market town close to Newcastle on Tyne. That's the kind of thing I like doing. I like travelling within the UK. I like to go to small towns or villages, or even further out. We've stayed on farms, somewhere where we are within easy reach of a city if we want to do city things. But really, this is the kind of landscape I need to be out in. I need to be out in the countryside, and that's where I'm most at peace. So we plant ourselves in the countryside, and then we go exploring from there. And I should mention too that the person who watches television and myself, we both love cities because we love public transport systems in UK cities. A lot of UK cities are bringing back their tram systems, and so we have gone deliberately to locations where in cities, Nottingham, Manchester, Edinburgh, and now we're going up to somewhere near Newcastle on Tyne. And one of the things we're going to do for a day is just ride the tram system. And I love riding the tram system. You might think this is odd that I'm such a country person, I keep saying, and yet I want to go into a city and ride its trams all over the place. But I think you get a good idea of the architecture of a city, its structure, its anatomy, by riding its trams right down to the last stops and then all the way back again. You get a sense of how the city is shaped and where different areas are, where the more expensive houses are, where the not so expensive houses are, and all that stuff. And that's all part of getting to know a city. So we really enjoy that. I keep hoping that the swan will want to come back, but I think the rowing boat just moved him along, or maybe he's following the boat because he's hoping that they'll feed him. Let's go on to the fourth quote, which is, you'll be the best of the best. And the book prompt is, what do you feel confident that you know a lot about with regard to books? Another one of those questions where I just kind of cringe and I think, I think I'm not the kind of person who's good at calling to mind facts just like that, the minute you ask me. In fact, I'm more likely to go a bit blank. I've always been dreamy, absent-minded kid. I was always off in my own head somewhere. And menopause destroyed what little short-term memory I had, that and the job that I did, because I was just constantly being barraged by little bits of information, some of which I had to keep, some of which I didn't, but it was always coming at me, never stopping, and it ruined my ability to pull out things from my short-term memory. And it makes it sound like I have no confidence in my mind at all. I mean, I'm confident that I can, if I take time, I can find the stuff that's stored in my brain. So slow is my thing. I'm not the person that's going to give you that fast answer, but I am the person who's going to give you a slower, very considered and well-researched answer. And then for the life prompt, Gareth asks, in Mastermind, what would be my specialist subject? Now, you have to explain Mastermind, I think, to anyone outside the UK. I'm not sure that something like it exists. But it's a show where 4 contestants come on to stage, and they have picked a subject that they believe they know enough about that they can be close questioned about it for a couple of minutes. And so the first round of Mastermind, the 4 contestants are questioned on their specialist subject. In the second round, they're questioned on general knowledge. And depending upon the number of points they add up, the person who adds up the most points by answering questions correctly becomes the Mastermind champion. Now, I think I can obviously say I would be horrible at this, and my worst nightmare would be going on Mastermind as a contestant, because I know I would blank. I know I would, and I would become completely useless. And even a subject that I thought I had a fair grasp of, I would look like an idiot. I would look like I knew nothing. It's not where I would go. It doesn't suit me at all. And Gareth's next quote is, "Except when you don't." And the book prompt is, what kinds of books do you feel that you don't relate to? And I was going to say, oh no, there aren't any books I don't relate to. And then I thought about it. I thought about it yesterday with the person who watches television. Because I said to him, actually, I have never read one of those, what are called saga fiction. And they're written, I don't know if they're written outside the UK, but within the UK, there's a genre of fiction which is aimed at older female readers who grew up in working class families in England, and you follow the life of a working class girl growing up in the 30s, 20s, 30s, 40s, and see where her life takes her. And I've always been a bit sort of, I think actually I could almost say there's been a snobbishness. A feeling that, well, those won't be very well written, surely, because the reading audience probably don't care, as long as the heroine is working class and she comes from somewhere up north in England or Scotland. That'll be fine. It won't matter what the story is. The stories are probably quite repetitive. That was my thinking, and of course, having done the book snobbery tag, I thought I didn't really address that. And it also occurred to me that the only way for me to be able to say anything definitively about saga fiction is to at least read a work of saga fiction. So I think that's something I need to work into a TBR. Read a work of saga fiction and then make up my mind, rather than making up before, which I try normally not to do. So that's the book prompt. Now, the life prompt, where is it now? Let's see. Where is it? I don't think I've put it down here. I think I just did the book prompt. Oh well, bad notes, I guess. Yeah. So let's go on to question 6 instead. Prompt number 6 the quote is "The Waiting Place," and the book prompt is "Name a book you're excited to read that's on your TBR." Now, I have some books that I bought in Hay on Wye. And if I'd have filmed indoors today, I probably would have put those to camera. But I think what I'm going to do is, how about if I do that as another video in the month? Maybe combining, because I haven't updated you where I am with War and Peace. War and Peace is going really well. I'm still really glad I'm doing that. But I could combine that. I could do one of those little patchworky videos where maybe I do another tag and I show you the books I got in Hay and I talk about War and Peace, just to make sure that you know I'm still reading it and it's still going just fine. But the life prompt here is, what are you looking forward to? Ooh, I don't know if I've got anything super exciting sort of coming up in the future that I'm planning. This last 12 months, for me, what's been more of a priority than great plans for the future has been settling down and getting back into routines, because life has been so disrupted in the last 12 to 18 months for me. So routines, have little rituals, everyday things. I'm not talking about anything astounding. Just a moment, everyone. I'll pause because we have someone coming. Well, it's such a beautiful landscape that you can't blame people for wanting to come out and walk in the sunshine. I didn't tell them I was doing a booktube video. They'll have to guess what it was I was out here filming. Let's go back to the life prompt. What am I looking forward to? I'll tell you one thing that I've been started to do again, which had kind of fallen off, was bread making, baking. The person who watches television bakes the bread that we eat for toast every day. He does that. But we also like, in mid-afternoon, we like what in the United Kingdom is called a tea cake. And I'll have to explain. A tea cake it's a roll, really. It's a roll that's made with a slightly enriched yeast-raised dough. So it's flour, water, salt, yeast, yes, but there's also a little butter, there's also a little milk. And into that dough as well, you also put some dried fruit that is soaked overnight in very strong tea. And then there's some mixed spice, cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, ginger, just a little bit that goes into that dough as well to give it that slightly spiced flavor. And you can buy these in grocery stores, but you know what store-bought bread is. I really have a thing about bread, and so I am now making tea cakes as much as I can on a weekly basis, so that we have those toasted, split, toasted, buttered, in about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I know it's a weird thing, but I love that I'm able to do that and that we have that. So it's not so much that I'm looking forward to things, it's that I'm really glad that life is settling again, because it was the instability of it and the unsettledness was tough while it was going on. And then the final prompt is the balancing act, talking about how am I balancing everything I do in life with my content creation and my reading. And I should just talk about balancing this camera. I'm sorry, this has really been an interesting experience, filming with a tripod in one hand and a notebook in another, while there's a decent breeze that is really making the whole handling of the notebook interesting. The camera's not a problem, but the camera ends up moving because I need some help from my other hand to get in control of the notebook. But I don't think I'll answer that now. I feel it's time for me to do another week where I measure how much time I'm spending reading, making content, etc., and having a look at it again to see, is the balance any better? I really had hoped for an improved amount of reading time, but I wonder, has that actually happened? It feels as though it takes me less time to film and edit now, but has that resulted in an increase in reading time? We shall see. Right, everyone, that's the tag complete. I need to get in because I didn't bring a hat and I shouldn't be out much longer than this in this kind of sunshine, but it's been fantastic to be out for this length of time chatting with you. I hope your reading's going really well. I hope that you have enjoyed this little bit of springtime in England. Please enjoy your reading, whatever you're doing, or if you're getting outside in some sunshine as well, fantastic. Till I talk to you again, take care. Bye-bye.